Welcome to those of you who just joined. It's Webinar Wednesday. We're excited to have you this morning. Got an awesome guest for you. We're going to get started here in about a minute. So sit back, relax, grab your cup of coffee, or I guess maybe afternoon cocktail, depending on where you are, and get ready for a great webinar this morning. All right, everyone. Good morning. It's 9:03. If you were looking for another webinar, you're in the wrong place because this is Webinar Wednesday with Perform Practice Solutions. I've got an amazing guest this morning. I'm excited because I'm not talking the whole time today. I've done 6 Webinar Wednesdays in a row, and I got to say, my voice is a little funky from talking for a couple hours straight during these webinars. I'm excited to have you. Wendi, I will start your video here in just a second here for you. Thank you for the note. I'm excited to have you all this morning. And hold on one second. Can you start your video now, Wendi?
Nope, not yet.
Not yet. Let me see if I can get you. Hold on one second, guys. I'm trying to get Wendi started up here. Let me see if I can make you co-host. Make co-host. And let's see if that changes your video status. There's your video. Good morning, Wendi.
Hello.
Hey, everybody. All right, let's see if we can get rolling here. There's my slide deck. We're ready to rock. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to Webinar Wednesday. I'm Kevin Rausch with Perform Practice Solutions. We are here for you, providing free webinars every Wednesday during our COVID-19 What's Next series. I'm really excited to have you this morning, and I'm excited to introduce my guest, Wendi Kroll from Essential HR and Building Champions. I've known Wendi for, the better part of 12 years. She's been an essential part of my business, my practice, and frankly, just a fabulous friend. She's a great coach. She's a great HR resource. She's helped me through some amazing times business-wise, and I'm really excited to be able to introduce her businesses, and her expertise to all of you this morning. So Wendi, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. And I know that Penny LeClaire, who is a colleague and partner of mine, has been on a webinar talking about HR issues as they have come up. And I wanted to come on and go over some updates on those HR issues from the Essential HR side of me as the owner and operator of Essential HR, but also been working with coaching clients and just trying to help them pivot from this defense reactionary behavior we've been on as we are gearing up to go back to work and what that's going to look like, get ourselves focused. So I'm excited to be able to share that with y'all.
Yeah, so, it seems like now's that right time sweet spot, Wendi.
Well, yeah, our clients kind of set this pace for us, and what comes out from the legalistic standpoint as well, set the pace for what we need to be focusing on. So yeah, it's time to turn the tide.
We're ready.
You're ready. Okay, so you want to go ahead and advance. We will be discussing, really wanted to, if you missed the FFCRA review and updates, I wanted to make sure that we talked about those and the CARE Act, so you guys know what's going on with those. Also, HR issues with employees returning to work, CDC recommendations for the workplace as you're returning, and then how to pivot from the offense to defense. So it looks like we have the wrong slide up there. I'm not sure if we have the right presentation?
This one?
No, I have some other slides, so I'll just go through them and then I'll send out the correct one. No problem. So if you had missed Penny's presentation on the FFCRA, which is the Federal Family Care Relief Act, there were two things that came up out of that, and that was the paid sick leave and the emergency FMLA. A lot of employers are still really confused about what that means, so I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of it. There are two prongs to it. First of all, if you have less than 500 employees, this does apply to you. If you have less than 50 employees, there may be an exception if there's business hardship. So that's something you'd want to talk through with a labor law firm or with somebody in HR to see if you can avoid having to be liable for this. There are tax credits available to you if you have to pay out this paid sick leave or this emergency FMLA. So what you would want to do for that is make sure that your payroll provider is setting up a separate code in payroll and that you're tracking that separately as a separate sick time or a separate rate of pay for the emergency FMLA. Your payroll and your CPA will help you be able to apply for those tax credits, and those can be applied for on a quarterly basis. There's 6 reasons that people may be eligible for this paid sick leave. So just so that you're aware of this, because this keeps coming up with our clients with questions about it. They have to be unable to work or telework due to an employee being quarantined or isolated by federal or state or local order. So those orders where they're 65 or older or 80 or older, those are people that are going to be eligible for this. If an employee is advised by their healthcare professional to self-quarantine due to concerns related to COVID-19, they're going to be eligible for this paid sick leave. If an employee is experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 and seeking medical diagnosis, they're going to be eligible for it. If an employee is caring for an individual subject to quarantine or isolation by federal, state, or local order, or if the employee is caring for children because of school or child care facility closure. This is an additional 80 hours of paid sick time that employees are mandated to pay out. It's in addition to any other paid sick time that you have. Again, you will want to code it differently in your payroll system because you are eligible to get tax credits for those. So the second part of the FFCRA is the emergency FMLA. And it's confusing because FMLA usually refers to an unpaid leave. This emergency FMLA is actually paid. And the way that we keep saying to look at it is as paid childcare, because you're really paying your employees for childcare. It only applies to employees if they are unable to work or telework due to caring for a child that's under 18 years due to closure of childcare facility or school. So what you are obligated as an employer to do for this is after 10 days, the first 10 days can be unpaid. So your employee can use sick time or vacation time or PTO for the first 10 days. After 10 days of the emergency paid sick leave will be applied. And for the next 10 weeks, you're obligated to pay the employee up to 2/3 of their employee's regular rate of pay. FMLA does still apply to this, so the job protection still applies to that. Again, there's tax credit available. Do you want to code that separately? There are caps on how much you have to pay out. So there's a daily limit and a maximum amount that you have to pay on this. So you'll want to check on that. With FFCRA, as you're returning to work, you need to make sure that you have the required poster posted where all employees can see, just like all the other federal regulated posters. And that needs to be posted through December of 2020. Those can be downloaded from the DOL website, and I'm happy to share that link with you if you're interested in getting that. So that's just a quick review on the FFCRA. And I just want to make sure that employers are aware of that, because we've continued to talk about it and we still get a lot of questions that employers don't know, and they're paying employees for all kinds of things, or they're not paying them when they're required to do so. A couple of other things we're getting a lot of questions on is how to prepare for employees returning to work, or for the essential businesses that we're continuing to work with, what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. And there's so much confusion because normal regulations with the EEOC say one thing, but now we have changes because of COVID. So a couple of things I want to make you aware of is some of the rights that employers do have, and just knowing what they're allowed to do, because these questions keep coming up and employers are very confused. So as employees are returning to work, or if you have an essential workplace that you are continuing, or if you're still keeping your office open, employees may not refuse to return to work once the shelter-in-place order has been lifted, unless they think that they are in imminent danger. So it's really difficult for them not to be able to return to work. You're going to want to be careful if they refuse to return to work. You're going to want to have an interactive conversation with them as to why, because there may be an underlying issue that does allow them to not return to work under the Americans with Disability Act, such as a mental illness concern, anxiety, that type of thing. You will also want to check with legal or HR counsel before you make any decision to terminate them if they do refuse to return to work. But this is something that keeps coming up and I keep getting questions about. Employers are now allowed to take employees' temperatures, and in fact, we are encouraging them to do so. The EEOC guidelines typically say you cannot, but that has changed due to COVID-19 to keep the workforce safe. Employers can prohibit symptomatic individuals from returning to work until they're cleared by their medical provider. So that's something that typically would fall under ADA, that you would not be able to do. That has been changed. Employers can require the employee to notify the company if they have been exposed, have symptoms, or have tested positive for COVID-19. So that is something that you can require of them. And in most cases, employees do not have the right to refuse to wear masks. So there are some exceptions for that, if they're allergic to them or so forth. But if you do require masks to be worn, they should be paid for by the employer. This is just a list of the common questions that I've been getting right now. So I just wanted to review all of those so you know what your rights are as an employer. Employees are scared. They're scared to return to work. So just be aware of that. And there's going to have to be some conversations, of course, empathy and understanding, but also knowing that you have you need to return to work and you need your workforce. So these are your rights that you need to be aware of.
Wendi, it's really interesting that you bring up the idea of people not wanting to come back to work. In fact, I've had two of my practice coaching clients from both sides of the country that are facing that exact same issue, where their stay-at-home order is lifted. In one case it's lifted, in the other case it's not. And their PT is actually refusing to come in and refusing to work. So okay. It's a live thing, yeah?
It's a very light thing. I have a lot of clients that are struggling with this and not sure what to do because they can't run their practices or their businesses without their employees, but it's a fine balance, right?
Right.
But
Well,
you do have the right. I would not terminate them until you talk with legal counsel.
right.
But you have the right to. They don't have the right unless there's imminent danger. And if you have safety compliance through OSHA and the CDC that you're following, then there's nothing else you can do.
And folks, we are going to take questions at the end of our presentation today. There's a Q&A button that you can ask a question with. So at any time you can hit that button, type in your question, and when Wendi finishes with her slide deck this morning, we're going to spend about 15 minutes, maybe 20, going over your individual questions. And what we'll do is I'll read them out loud, and Wendi and I will answer them for you. So feel free to submit them at any time, but we'll get to them towards the end of the presentation.
Perfect. I'm sorry you guys don't have these slides. We can get these slides out to you if you need them or want them. The last really HR thing, no, two more. The last thing that I know that Penny covered with you as well was the CARE Act. I know that the PPP is a source of pain for a lot of people. Some have gotten it, some haven't gotten it. If you have received the PPP, there are guidelines out that I want everybody to be aware of. Knowing what the requirements are in order to make the loan forgivable. If you want to keep it as a loan and pay the 1%, fine. But if you are planning to apply for it to be forgivable, there are strict guidelines. I'm not going to go over them all today. I'm happy to share those with you. Or the website that Fisher and Phillips, who is the labor law firm we work with, they have a great outline of it. But there's, tons of things you need to check off the list. So I just want to make sure that you are following those guidelines if you're hoping to have that loan forgiven. And if you haven't gotten a loan, I'm going to pray and keep my fingers crossed that you get through on this next round. So I know it's frustrating for a lot of people. The second thing is with the unemployment insurance. I want you to be aware if you have furloughed employees, if you've laid off employees, a lot of employees have not seen a dime yet, especially in the state of California. So EDD is the state of California agency that manages the unemployment insurance. They have been inundated and they are working hard to try to get benefits out, but a lot of people are having a lot of frustration. So be aware of that. If you have employees in that situation, you just need to know that that may be going on. Under the CARE Act, though, they should be, once they start receiving benefits, they should be receiving an additional $600 on a week on top of their state benefit. And that is for 8 weeks through July, just so that you're aware of that. That is something that they should be receiving. This causes another issue for employers. As you know, some employees are making more because of the CARE Act than they would be making if they were working. So that's another challenge you may face when you come to reopen, something that you, again, need to have a discussion with HR or a labor law firm about how to handle. If they want to continue on that, you can ask them to resign or terminate on a case-by-case basis. But again, they will only be receiving that $600 for 8 weeks. So that's something we need to talk about. I'm sure that you are all trying to come up with, prepare your work sites based on the CDC regulations for opening the workplace. From an HR perspective, CDC is really recommending a couple of things. They are telling us that we should establish routine daily employee health checks. What that looks like for your establishment is something you need to put in place. My sister owns and operates a small, not small, she has a OBGYN practice in Newport Beach here. She has continued to stay open Of course, she's taking care of pregnant patients. They have created a great routine with taking not only temperatures for everybody that walks in the door for employees, but also for visitors and for patients. And they actually put that on a sticky where their temperature has been checked. So everybody knows what the temperature is. The people taking the temperatures are wearing face masks and protective gear. So make sure you're checking with CDC guidelines on how to do that. Have an action plan if a staff member gets COVID-19. This is really important. I've been having employers that are still operating that are calling us panicked when somebody does test positive for COVID-19. Know what needs to happen. You are going to have to contact the CDC. You are going to have to notify all the employees that have been working with that employee or around that employee between 10 or 30 minutes within the last week. You're going to have to notify them. You cannot tell the employees who the affected employee was. So there's just a lot of guidelines you're going to need to be able to follow. The CDC is regulating how that's happening along with the DOL. So making sure that you're doing that and having the information that you've established communications with the state and local health authorities so you know what is required and if that does happen is super important. Okay, all that fun stuff, all that HR fun stuff that we're just jumping through hoops and reacting and running. I know as an HR professional and as a business owner, this has been tough. And the first 4 weeks, I feel like I was sprinting every day. And the 5th week, I hit a wall and I said, this is going to be a marathon. I got to stop the sprint. Like, slow down, slow down. So, and as a practice at Building Champions, I work with 25 coaches. They've been in business for 26 years. They have great tools. And I said, instead of preaching this, I'm going to start walking the talk. And I really put things in place and I feel much calmer. And I feel like I'm able to serve people better. And I feel like I'm able to connect with people and just getting back to creating healthy habits. So I kind of wanted to talk through that with all of you as leaders and business owners, what you can do. So shifting our focus and energy from this defensive reactionary behavior to how can we get to that offensive offense to action about what we're going to do instead of, conserving cash and what to do with my team. What do I communicate with clients in the Federal Family Care Rights Act and the CARE Act, PP loan? What's the worst case? Okay, let's take it down a notch. Kevin, have you been there? Have you been doing that? Or you?
I feel it. I feel it so much. It's been just an amazing journey over the last 6 weeks between the sprint in the very beginning of putting all of our offices on lockdown and shuttering and furloughing our entire team. It was an HR sprint to try to get it right, do it right, fix the payroll, and get all of us lined up. Mm-hmm. The second sprint was applying for all the disaster loans and the PPP, and shoot, that was probably 40 hours in 2 or 3 days of just applying for those loans. Mm-hmm. But I feel what you're saying is that this is going to be a marathon, and we're going to have months and months of change and difference that we're going to have to balance and navigate. And mm-hmm. if we don't take care of ourselves, our hearts, our families, our fitness, then it's going to be way more difficult for us to take care of our businesses and our teams.
Yep, absolutely. So I want to just give you some tools, some tips, an opportunity to take time to really think about how life has changed and that it may not return to normal, right? Our routines have all been disrupted. we've been under extreme stress, anxiety, worry, health, finances are scary, our teammates, our future, our clients. I mean, I feel for my clients. I'm sure you guys do too. So what are we going to do to create these new habits? Whether we like it or not, we are already creating these new habits. They say a habit takes, what, 30 days to make? And we're, what, 45 days into this? So we're already creating this. And because of the stress that we've been feeling, there's this negative impact on our limbic system. So the way we feel, think, are all being affecting our relationships and our performance. I've been diving into something called positive intelligence, which is new research out that talks about really the saboteurs that come from our behaviors and our backgrounds and our baggage, and the negative thought patterns that they can create and hijack our behavior. So trying to learn what those are and use those as knowledge and awareness of, okay, what's this telling me and how can I turn the tide on that? So we need to move away from this fight, flight, freeze response and quiet our minds to be able to focus on what's most important, our priorities, and take action now. So this has to be an intentional process. You go to the next slide. So I pulled this out. I saw this at Easter time, and I thought it was pretty funny because we had those emotion charts. I don't know if you've seen those. I used them with my kids when I was growing up and when I was in grad school for clinical psychology. You had like these things that you used with kids to show what mood you are. And I was like, this is at Easter. And I thought, yeah, it's kind of like we're all eggs that are gonna crack with what, what we're feeling. So which one of these represents you? Is it taking a toll on you? How are you showing up in your relationships? Shorter fuse, less patience, less reserve. So being intentional about choosing how you're going to think is going to affect how you're going to feel. So like I said, whether we realize it or not, we're forming new habits, and there's a good chance they're not intentional. So our reactionary behavior has taken over, and it's time to get back to focusing on priorities, being mindful, being intentional, and making commitments that are disciplines. We have to learn to flex those new muscles, right? So it takes time. You can go to the next slide, actually go 2 slides. This is an oldie but goodie for me. This is taken from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And I use this all the time. We have so much that we're concerned about. So if you look at that outer circle, that's our circle of concern. So if we just put COVID in there as our circle of concern, we can come up with so many things that we are concerned about. So it's our health, it's the health of other people, it's how it's affecting the economy, how it's affecting our finances personally. Let's go on and on about all of the concerns we have around COVID. But let's dive into that orange circle, the circle of influence. What influence do you have? What control do you have about your concern around COVID? That's where all your energy should be. The rest of it is mental clutter, emotional and mental energy that is being wasted. So focusing in on what influence you have, what you can control, and making those actions and your behaviors follow that. That's it. And as you work in that circle of influence, it's going to grow and there's going to be less concern. And I hope that makes sense. And we're going to use a different tool to help you really be able to establish that. So if you go to the next page, I have a tool that Building Champions has been using for over 20 years. And it's usually used just as a 30-day business plan. We created a new one just for this time period, which is a one-page simple crisis plan. I'd rather call it a new reality or a focus plan instead of crisis, because I'm sick of hearing the word crisis, but that's what it is for now. So they've been using this tool for 20 years, and it's super effective and brutally simple. So because our worlds have become enmeshed, we have both our personal and our professional lives here. And it's time to really focus on what are the things we want to accomplish both. So if you look in the middle, you'll see a circle. And the circle represents the theme of the next 30 days. So what is the overarching theme that you want to accomplish in the next 30 days? Going back to that circle of influence, what is it that you want to be intentional about? So I actually filled mine out and last week, and it has been helping me so much. This is kind of what it looks like. My theme was get organized and create new structure. My world has changed a ton, and it's going to change a ton. So what's the new structure going to be for me? So create your theme and then create your goals, both personal and professional. I don't know about you all, but I got away from my morning routine. I got up out of bed. I was in my pajamas, and I'd find myself at 5 o'clock still in my pajamas after being on calls all day long. And I was like, okay, when's the last time I washed my hair? I mean, it was silly. It's crazy. I don't know how it happened. Exercise, you know, the gym got closed, the yoga studio got closed. What was I supposed to do? I thankfully did think ahead of time, and I ordered a Peloton before they got sold out. So thankfully I have that, but I needed to be intentional about how I'm going to use that. So creating my goals personally for getting my morning routine back in place, for my self-development, for, you know, connecting with my family and ways that I wanted to, and then my professional goals, really, like, what do I need to achieve in order to be successful going forward? What can I do? What do I have influence over? So creating your goals that are specific and measurable are super important. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to look at what are the disciplines that I need in order to achieve those goals. So you're going to list out the different things. And these, again, need to be specific. So for my exercise routine, I have a Peloton now. What am I, you know, what classes, when am I going to take those classes? How many am I going to take those classes? For my self-development, how many hours a week am I committing myself to reading? And what books am I going to read that are going to help me develop myself? So those type of things you're going to put and be very specific about them. And then the last thing is projects. What projects can you do that are going to help you to achieve your goals? So at the end of the month, these are things that you've done that have helped you achieve your goals. So if it's personal and you haven't taken the time to organize and clean out clutter, you know, your projects are going to be to clean out the garage and clean out the closets. So take time and put this all on one sheet, and it really will help you focus. The goal is that you will look at this and go, I accomplished these things. I focused on these things over the last 30 days. This is how you lead yourself. And leadership of anything, your organization, your clients, your practices starts with self-leadership. So we need to get back to leading ourselves well, taking care of ourselves well. And how are we doing that?
Wendy, can we put a sample of one of these up on our Facebook page so people can download it?
Absolutely.
Great. I'll take care of that this afternoon.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, on the next slide, you're able to download it. I can send it to you. This is an easy way for you to get other tools from Building Champions. They have all kinds of tools on there, that a business plan that you can use, business vision you can create, life planning. So, but this one is just so easy and simple. It's one I wanted to share with you today. other things and resources that will help you shift and being able to be a good leader as your employees come back. I put up some links that I've been following and reading during this time. So Harvard Business Review has a great thing for how to help us really focus on how to get back to selling and what that looks like right now, because it's weird. It's weird to try to sell anything right now, but how can we do that effectively? They have a great article on that. If you're having remote workers, Gallup has doing a great job on how to keep engagement up, right? And to take care of your employees. They also have a great guide for leaders that that will help you with the engagement through the process. You have scared employees coming back to work. You have employees that may not want to come back to work. What are you going to do as a leader, and how are you going to show up for them? And Gallup also has another great thing on what your employees need from you right now. So there is a time for us to show empathy, but also to be able to coach them on how to get back using a tool like this too, because they have lost control and structure of their lives as well. Mm. Last thing is Building Champions has been doing just crisis, leading in crisis on self-leadership, team effectiveness, organizational impact, great videos that I just wanted to share as other resources, not to plug Building Champions too much, but just as resources. Is all free to you. It's all free information. So that's all I got for you. And I hope that the tool will be helpful, and I'm happy to answer any questions about either the tool or the HR plethora of requirements for you employers.
Thanks, Wendy. That was amazing. I loved your slide in regards to and your talk about making daily habits and being intentional with it. I have to confess, I've obviously been around my wife and my kids a lot in the last 8 weeks, right? But my wife has done the most amazing job at carving out fitness and health times for herself. In fact, I think she's downstairs doing a yoga and a Pilates class right now. She's got her iPad up, she's got a mat out, she's created her own little studio in the living room. The kids are on their school stuff, and she is being very intentional with her fitness and her routines. And I've got to say, I've been really, really proud to watch it. And then there's the contrast of me. I
was going to say, what about you?
In my pajamas at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, being on 10 calls all day long. And then I look down and shoot, I'm still in my pajama pants. So yeah, I hear you. I feel you that this is a time that is obviously different, but it's a time that each one of us, if we're going to lead our organizations and lead our people, we do need to be intentional for ourselves as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. It all starts with you and with self-leadership when it comes to leading your team. So.
Right. We've got a number of questions so far, and folks, go ahead and click on that Q&A button and submit your questions to us now. And I'm going to start by reading some of these aloud, and Wendy and I are going to go through them one by one and hopefully get these answered to the best of our abilities as we can. Remember, this is not legal guidance. Wendy and I are doing this for free, and this is not supposed to be legal guidance for you or your businesses. If you need legal guidance, please consult your HR resource and your attorneys. Did I hit that well enough, Wendy?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
We always have to protect ourselves too. Great question here from Jonathan. Wendy, this one's probably going to be for you. Does the emergency FMLA only apply if you're an active employee? If you are still furloughed, does that mean you can't apply for FMLA?
Yes, you need to be an active employee. If you've been furloughed, then you are not able to participate in that.
Gotcha. Thank you. Gabrielle, I recognize that name from a couple of other webinars we've done. Thanks for joining us again. Gabrielle asks, if a staff comes back at fewer hours than they were paid for prior to closing, do they still receive unemployment benefits of the difference in pay plus the $600?
That is a heck of a good question. I don't know the answer to that, if they will continue to receive that $600. Their benefit will be reduced. So basically, when an employee is on unemployment, they have to certify every week how much they have been paid by their employer. So if it's California, EDD will determine what the benefit amount is, and it will be reduced based on what they were paid. With the $600 CARE Act, I don't know how they are doing that. I can check into it, but I don't know the answer to that one.
I'm in the exact same thought process as you. I don't know if that 600 still applies if you have a new or a different work or a reduced hour. I'm in that same area there. I don't think I can add to it. Another question here from Kroll. Can we bring back all of our PTs in the first 4 weeks and then bring back aides in the second 4 weeks? And if so, are we able to still be forgiven the full-time equivalents if we were not met for the first 4 weeks, but we are full-time equivalents back to work in the last 4 weeks? Let me see if I can interpret this. It sounds like he's going to bring back his staff in stages, and he wants to know if his PPP loan is going to be able to be forgiven if he brings his staff back in stages and doesn't bring everybody back at one time.
My understanding from the PPP loan is that you need to continue to pay full wages for full-time employees. I'm certainly happy to share the guidelines that I have here. I'm not an expert on it. In fact, I've been trying to understand it for my own business purposes. But my understanding is no, you would have to bring them all back or pay them in order for the loan to be forgiven, because they will be looking at your payroll records and looking at the number of full-time employees that you have back on those payroll records as part of the forgiveness process.
Yeah, and just to add to that, in my own research and reading on that, Wendy, it sounds like that there will be portions of it forgiven if you don't bring back everybody, but you're obviously not going to have all of it forgiven if you don't bring back everybody. Right?
Correct. Right.
Because the loan is based on everybody, right? But if you don't bring back everybody because that's what you choose to do for your business and your situation, which is fine, by the way, that you won't have all of it forgiven because not everybody was brought back either at the same rate or at the same hour or at the same pace.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Right. Some of it will be forgiven, not all of it. It depends on how much you're paying out.
Yeah, and I think that's just a business by business kind of a call, right? Because there's going to be businesses that can go live, flip the switch, everybody comes back, full time, full everything, here we go. And there's going to be some of us that come back at graduated paces and graduated schedules. I know that's what we're going to do in all of my offices. We're going to come back bits at a time so that we can make sure that we fill schedules, move forward at a slow pace each week.
Yeah, my sister has 11 employees, and she had laid them off 50-50 and was rotating them before she got the PPP. But she got the PPP, she brought them all 11 back. She doesn't have enough patience. I mean, she usually has a year wait for patients to come in. Now she's done at 2 o'clock. So, you know, she's having them do all kinds of different things just to keep them there and that she'll get the loan forgiven, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense sometimes. So we were grappling with what to do with that the other day. So you have to make that discretionary decision and discern it for yourself.
Yeah, and it's live, it's real time, and it's different this week. It might be different next week. Who knows?
Right.
Next question here. Any recommendations for affordable, quick, easy air thermometer that would be best for a small practice? I'm gonna default to you, Wendy, because I haven't even looked for a thermometer yet.
I don't know that either. I'm sorry.
I did have a meeting with my management team yesterday, and I had two folks that said that they had looked for the swipe or the air thermometers, and they are unavailable for purchase. So there might be a supply issue when it comes to thermometers. I've got a thermometer joke on the ready, but in the interest of you being my friend, Wendy, and my also HR consultant, I'm going to keep it back.
That's never stopped you before, Kevin.
I know, but we're live. We're live. I have people to impress here. What is the name of the poster we need to post from the CDC, Wendy?
It's actually from the Department of Labor, and it is the FFCRA poster. And there's a link there. They have it in Spanish, and it's easy to find on the DOL website, FFCRA.
FFCRA. Really fun acronyms that we're all going to be faced with for the next year. Let's see. Wendy, this one's a shout out to you. It says, "Oh, how I've missed you and your motivational tools." No question. I just wanted to say awesome job. I think that's from somebody on my team, Wendy, saying thank you.
Thank you. I miss you guys too.
I'm looking for questions here. Here we go. Another good one and very relevant. Wendy, how do we handle those employees that don't want to return because they make more with the extra 600 on employment? What do we do?
Okay, so that keeps coming up, and we have some employees that are giving that are trying to incentivize employees to come back by giving them bonuses. But if they don't want to come back, then they would have to resign their position.
So it's really as simple as that. If they don't want to come back for whatever reason it is, then it's up to them to resign their position.
Correct.
What if they say, no, I don't want to resign? Are we then in the 3-day don't show up for your job kind of a situation?
Well, if it's all about the unemployment and they're choosing to stay off of work and to collect the unemployment, that's a different case than if they don't want to come back because they are fearful of coming back. So it's really about having a conversation about it. And you have to consider and have an interactive dialogue about it. But if it comes down to that, it's just the unemployment that they want to continue to collect. That's why employees are usually giving bonuses or incentives for them to come back, because that's only the last through July. It's put employers in a predicament for sure if they're making more.
Absolutely, it has. I think this is a follow-up to that question. Would an employer then report the employee who doesn't want to come back to work to the EDD or to that state agency?
Yeah, you can definitely notify the agency that they have not returned to work, even though work was available to them. That may cause an issue for the employee that they will no longer receive it if they're the moving party. I don't know how EDD will respond to that given COVID, though.
I agree. You know, we've always heard from an employer standpoint that every time you've got an employee that is on unemployment and had lost their job, that it dings our account, right? Or dings our unemployment insurance account, that we are then responsible for filling back up at a higher taxation rate, right?
Yes.
But again, that might not be appropriate and applicable during these COVID-19 times.
If generally, I would think though, if the employee is the moving party, they still would not be eligible for unemployment at that point. But I can't guarantee that's how EDD would rule on the determination for benefits.
Yeah, I don't think we can guarantee much of anything at this point, Wendy.
Yeah, no.
We're out of the guaranteeing business. I want to thank Wendy, my special guest and great friend, for joining us this morning. Thank you to all of you who have chosen to spend your Wednesday morning or mid-afternoon with us. Again, this has been Perform Practice Solutions and Essential HR in providing you your Wednesday webinar series. We're working on our topic for next week, so stay tuned. And if you have any requests for topics, feel free to submit a request to kevin@performpt.net. And we've got some phone numbers and some web addresses on your screen for you to connect with us right now. We've got a host of opportunities for you to improve your business and to do better work coming back here after COVID-19. Again, Wendy, thank you so much for spending your time with us.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, everyone.
All right, everybody, we're going to wrap it up. Have a great day. Bless you all and move forward. Thanks.
Bye.